Yo guys, Punkrat another video. So I've been contemplating my next video, and honestly, I've been a bit indecisive to choose between all the different options. I ended up filtering through all of my comments and found two demanded topics, which seemed to pop up a lot. There was one that was a fishing guide, and the next was a twinking guide. I know you guys are for sure interested in the twinking guide, that's 100%, well at least some of you guys are, but I feel that would be more suitable for the near future when phase 2 is right around the corner. So for this one, I'm going to be covering the fishing profession instead. So let's channel our inner Nat Pagel on this one, and become the mightiest fish wrangler, champion of the Booty Bay fishing tournament. Here's my classic WoW fishing guide. Let's get into it. Fishing is a very important profession in classic WoW. In fact, I'd say it's probably one of the more lucrative money-making fields that you can work in. Many incredibly important consumable recipes involve fishing in some way, which makes the mats highly demanded. But that's not the only factor. Fishing is generally regarded as dull by some folks. But that's a matter of opinion. I personally really enjoy fishing casually as I either work on a project on the side or watch the news on my second monitor. This profession is also widely underestimated, I'd say. Some people view it as a secondary profession, being lesser than the real deal like alchemy and the likes. But this isn't necessarily true. Fishing is packed with value, especially if you combine it with cooking and become the Gordon Ramsay of Azeroth. Now before we get into some of the more lucrative types of fish and which recipes they correlate to, let's briefly go over the locations that you should be casting your fishing line out in during the process going from 1 to 100. From skill levels 1 to 55, you can hit up pretty much any starting zone. You got Durotar, Elwyn Forest, Dun Moreau, you name it. Simple enough, and it's pretty much exactly what you'd expect. From 55 to 130, here are the best zones that you can visit on your fishing vacation. We've got Ashenvale, Stone Talon Mountains, Duskwood, Hillsbrad Foothills, Red Ridge Mountains, Wetlands, and Wailing Caverns. Now once you push past this point a little bit, it's time to train your skill up to level 225. In order to do this, you don't simply visit the fishing trainer and get it elevated. Similar to first aid, you need a book or a manual in order to learn expert fishing. The book is called Expert Fishing, The Bass and You, which is sold by Old Man Hemming in Stranglethorn Vale. It costs 1 gold. Alternatively, you can just buy it off the auction house for a little bit of a markup if you can't be asked to head all the way to STV. Now the fishing zones from 130 to 205 include Duskwallow Marsh, Desolus, Thousand Needles, Alterac Mountains, Arathi Highlands, Stranglethorn Vale, and Swamp of Sorrows. And a little tip is always try to stay near the shores for the most part. That's where most of the schools of fish are found. And Stranglethorn Vale is quite unique, however, because it has this massive river body that flows through the center of it, providing you with a lot more water surface to catch great fish in. But also keep in mind that there's certain schools of fish that only spawn inland in lake bodies and stuff. Now for your push to 300, it's again not as simple as you might expect. The first requirement is level 35 to obtain it. You must then go visit our friend Nat Pagel out in Dustwallow Marsh, just southwest of Theramore. He'll give you the quest Nat Pagel Angler Extreme, which requires you to catch a Feralus Ahi, a Misty Reed Mahi Mahi, a Sartheris Striker, and a Savage Coast Blue Sailfin. All of these fish are quite rare and can only be caught by those who have this quest. You don't fish them like you typically would from a specific named spawn school of fish, but rather you get them out of a particular body of water at a low % chance. So just fishing into the water rather than targeting a school spawn. The Feralus Ahi you get from a small pool of water just southeast of Diremall. It's called Verdantis River. Misty Reed Mahi Mahi you get from the southern shores of Swamp of Sorrows, just southeast of the Temple of Atal Hakar, or Sungan Temple. Sartheris Striker you get from the shoreline just near Shadowprey Village in Desolus. It's called Sartheris Strand. Savage Coast Blue Sailfin you get from Gromgol Base Camp in Stranglethorn Vale. The area is called the Savage Coast. So after you complete this quest, you've now unlocked Artisan Fishing with a skill level up to 300. So from fishing skill 205 to 300, we've got Ashara, Fellwood, Feralus, Tanaris, Angoro Crater, Moonglade, the Hinterlands, and Western Plaguelands. And 300 plus is Winter Spring, Ashara specifically at the Bay of Storms, and Deadwind Pass where Karazhan is located. So fishing is quite easy to level up to max. It requires patience, and that's pretty much it. A big piece of advice that would extend to you in this process is to level cooking alongside it. You can basically level them both up at once, knocking out 2 birds with 1 stone. The fish that you farm will feed your cooking skills, or just hoard all of the fish in your bank or on a bankle and level cooking later if you just don't want to be bothered with it until later on. Now in the spirit of cooking, let's talk about some lucrative recipes that involve fishing, which of course is very important and probably something that you want to be aware of. So let's talk about alchemy, since these recipes probably give the most powerful buffs on this list. list. Here's the core surrounding alchemy. Deviate fish. This one is used in a recipe for elixir of giant growth, which increases your strength by 8. I mean, who cares? 8 strength. But why it's such a valued potion is that it also increases the size of your character model by a nice portion. Ever seen a giant Tauren, and I mean a giant Tauren on a giant Kodo? That's achieved through this potion. Ever seen someone cheese their way through the wall in Dead Mines and get to old outlands? That's elixir of giant growth for you. And of course, this is related to cooking, but Deviate fish is also used in Savory Deviate Delight, which is the most used costume in Classic WoW. There's high demand for this food throughout every single content patch in Classic WoW. The best place to get Deviate fish is outside of the Wailing Caverns. Just farm the water pools in that oasis area right outside. Next up is Firefin Snapper, and as a mage raiding AQ40 and Nax a couple years ago, this is probably the fish that I farmed more than anything else. So these guys are turned into fire oil, which is used for 2 incredibly important recipes. The first is of course the basic fire protection potion, highly sought after for Onyxia, Molten Core, and Blackwing Lair raiders who want to avoid taking big chunks of fire damage on certain boss mechanics. But it's not only useful for those raid tiers, it's also used in the recipe for Elixir of Greater Firepower, which is the Fire Mage potion that increases their fire spell power by 40, highly sought after for Nax and AQ40 raid progression in the later phases when mages are running fire spec. These are farmed all over the place in most level 20 plus zones. The best place to farm them, at least in my experience, is alongside the coast of Stranglethorn Vale from top to bottom. Next we've got Oily Blackmouth, which is found in most level 10 to 40 zones across all of Azeroth, and sometimes in lake bodies inland within high level zones like Ongoro and Western Plaguelands. This is used for Blackmouth Oil, a reagent for free action potion, enchant gloves plus fishing, and some corny potions like water breathing, water walking, and swim speed. It's a pretty decent fishy. People generally like the water walking one specifically for fishing actually, where you can walk on top of the water in a lake and just go from node to node to node. And last on the list, we've got the pièce de résistance, the most highly valued fish on the market, the Stonescale Eel. This is fished from high level zones, 40 plus generally, like off the coast of Tanaris, near the Naga encampment in Ashara, and Feralus. With this eel, you make Stonescale Oil, which sells for a ton of gold per stack on the auction house since it's used for Elixir of Superior Defense, Flask of Petrification, and the best potion being Greater Stone Shield Potion, which is an absolute necessity for tanks in later raid tiers on hard-hitting bosses like Chromagus, Patchwork, and others. The potion increases their armor by 2,000 for 2 minutes. This is especially needed for dual-wield tanks to compensate for the lack of armor from not using a shield. It's kind of like a pseudo-shield in a sense. But of course, the most important by far is Flask of the Titan, the premier tanking flask in all of vanilla, increasing your health by 1200. Every tank will be needing this when raids become a bit more difficult as the content patches push forward. Okay, now for cooking. I'm only going to cover a couple here, the ones that I find are most important for endgame content. First are the MP5 food buffs. We've got raw greater sagefish, which is used for Sagefish Delight, increasing your MP5 by 6 every 5 seconds. You farm these in Alterac Mountains and Stranglethorn Vale. Next is raw Nightfin Snappers, which is used in Nightfin Soup, the top end MP5 well-fed buff at 8 MP5. You farm these inland within lakes in many zones. We've got Ashara, EPL, Felwood, Feralus, Moonglade, Hinterlands, Ongoro, WPL, and Winterspring. And last, we've got Winter Squid, which is used for grilled squid. It gives you a plus 10 agility well-fed buff, so 0.5% of crit on warriors and AP/crit rating for hunters and rogues. You farm these in Ashara, Feralus, STV, Tanaris, and the Hinterlands. A nice little addition to farming fish is that you get clams. You have a chance of getting big mouth clams, which can contain 4 different pearls. We've got the black pearl, iridescent pearl, small lustrous pearl, and the golden pearl. These are used for enchants and tailoring patterns for the most part. You can find the big mouth clams in 40 plus level zones, so good luck chasing those golden pearls. They're worth a decent chunk and they sell really well. You can also find wreckage. So the idea behind this is maybe there was a sunken ship or whatnot, a wreckage, and there might be just some floating boxes from the wreck along the shore. You can fish these spawns and get crates, or they're called trunks. These can contain green items, bags, cloth, and potions. A nice little additional value on top of your fish farming. And another nice little RP element to fishing is that certain schools of fish only spawn during certain hours of the day. These include Stone Stonescale Eel, so if you can't find any eels, it's probably because they're all sleeping. But here are the time periods where you can find these specific fish. We've got raw knifefin snappers, Stonescale eels, and raw sunscale salmons. So one thing that you might notice while leveling up is that you need quite high fishing skill to fish specific pools that you think might actually be in your range. Don't worry, you can indeed fish them even if you're a little bit below the level required. You just need to get plus fishing as a stat either on your gear or on your weapon. The first way to do this is with a nice fishing pole. So let's go over all of the different fishing poles that you can get. The first one we're going to cover is called Big Iron Fishing Pole, which you get from the shellfish traps in Desolace at a 5% drop rate. We've got the Blump Family Pole, and it's from an Alliance quest called the Family and the Fishing Pole. We've got the regular fishing pole, which is just the basic one that you start with at the fishing vendor. We've got the Strong Fishing Pole, which is again just from the fishing vendor, but slightly better. We've got Nat Pagel's Extreme Angler FC 5000, which increases your skill by 25. You get this from a horde specific quest. Well, sorry Alliance, but the quest is called Snapjaws Mon, and the best one available is called Arcanite Fishing Pole, increasing your skill by 35. We'll explain how you get this one in a little bit. Now, tied in with your fishing pole is the fishing lure. You can't just put a metal hook in the water and expect a fish to bite. You need a worm on that bad boy. So here are the lures. We've got Aqua Dynamic Fish Attractor from any fishing vendor. We've got Aqua Dynamic Fishing Lens, which is from an Alliance only quest called Electropellers. We've got Bright Baubles, again fishing vendor. Flesh Eating Worm, which is a drop from the Rotten One in Duskwood. You guys have surely come across these. We've got Night Crawlers, which again drops from various ghouls and zombies across the world. You can also get them from the fishing vendor. And lastly, Shiny Baubles, again fishing vendors. You apply these onto your weapon and gain fishing skill, allowing you to get higher level fish pools. So that's the nitty gritty, but there's also interesting content surrounding fishing outside of the basic day-to-day that you'll get accustomed to. Most of you guys probably know exactly what I'm about to say is the Stranglethorn Fishing Extravaganza, the Booty Bay Fishing Tournament. This tournament starts every Sunday at 2 p.m. server time and lasts till 4 p.m. every single Sunday. Once the tournament begins, pools of speckled tasty fish will spawn across all of the water bodies in Stranglethorn Vale. The goal is to catch 40 of this specific fish and hand them in before anyone else. The first to get the job done wins the entire tournament. If you're so lucky and skilled to achieve that first place victory, here are the two rewards that you can look forward to. The first is Arcanite Fishing Pole, which is what we mentioned earlier. It's the best available fishing rod in the entire game, with a plus 35 fishing skill on it. And the other option is Hook of the Master Angler, a trinket that turns you into a giant fish, allowing you to breathe underwater and increasing your swimming speed. And also keep in mind that you can win this tournament twice, so you can pick up both rewards if you're so inclined to do so. There's also some other nice rewards available without actually winning the whole thing for the final reward. So here they are. We've got Lucky Fishing Hat and Nat Pagel's Extreme Angling Boots. These are both very well known as level 19 twink items, since you can finish the quest on a level 19 twink and get access to item level 40 items on that character. To get these quests complete, you need to get real lucky and happen to stumble across some rare fish associated with the tournament, so you can only get these guys when the tournament is active. The Lucky Fishing Hat requires a Kiefer's Anglefish, and the boots require Brownell's Blue Striped Racer, so good luck finding these elusive little fishers. It can be quite the grueling experience filled with disappointment, but once you stumble across that rare fish, you get a real nice prize. Now here's the last endgame fishing event that you can look forward to. It's not available just yet, since it's within Zul'Gurub, but nonetheless, it's right on the horizon, so something to look forward to again. So within Zul'Gurub itself, down at the water's edge, you'll find this little abandoned camp called Pagel's Point. Of course, Nat Pagel's camp, or his abandoned camp. There's a quest you can get there called Extreme Anglin'. You must then return Nat Pagel's measuring tape back to him in Dustwallow Marsh. Then you need to pick up Mudskunk lures before returning to Zul'Gurub. Then it's time to catch Zulian Mudskunks, which you get out of the dangerous waters of Zul'Gurub. In order to fish these pools, I heard you need 300 fishing, but I think it's better to obviously have a lure so you miss less or you get failed attempts less. So make sure that you have lures on you and a nice fishing rod for these pools. Then it's time to return to Pagel's Point, which is that little abandoned camp within Zul'Gurub, and collect 5 Mudskunks. Place those Mudskunks in the lure that you got initially from Nat Pagel in Dustwallow, and an epic sea creature the likes of which you have never seen will come out of the water. Okay, never mind, it's basically the exact same thing as the last boss in Black Fathom Deeps or Zul'Farrak, Gazrilla. I mean, it looks the same. but it's green, and it's a raid boss, so let's pretend like it's cool, right? And there we go, you've just unlocked access to a new hidden raid boss within the raid itself, opening up the potential for a bunch of new items to drop for your raid. I mean, check out this eye patch, and look at this feral druid staff that looks like a fishing pole. Pretty cool. Good on you, fisherman, and enjoy. Man, that was an exhausting video. There's so much depth to fishing, right guys? It's easily one of the more interesting professions in the game. It's something that I've always neglected in my younger years playing WoW, but in the last little bit of my legacy adventures on private servers, I've fished every single time, and it's become one of my favorite professions by a long shot. I really tried to cover all the little nuance contained within fishing in this video, and hopefully I did a good job at it. If you guys didn't plan on getting fishing at all, I can only hope to maybe have sold you on the value behind it, possibly changing your mind, or if you planned on fishing anyway, hopefully I rekindled the flame of passion for you to get going, or filled you in on all the information that you need to fish successfully in Classic WoW. Well, that's it for me on this one. If you like my videos and want to see more from me, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, of course, you know the drill, soldiers. Hit the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a new video fresh out of the render oven. And with that said, thanks for watching, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the other side. Peace.